There comes a time in life when you feel the need to explain yourself, to prove your worth, to shout at the world and say, "Look at me, listen to me, understand me." But have you ever wondered why? Why do we feel the need to be heard, to be seen, to be validated? We live in a world that glorifies noise. The louder you are, the stronger you seem. The more you speak, the wiser they assume you to be. But what if I told you that true strength is in silence? That true wisdom is in patience? That everything you seek will come to you not when you demand it, but when you trust in the process of life? Silence is often misunderstood. People associate it with weakness, submission, or an inability to respond. But in reality, silence is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. It is the language of those who are confident in their path, who understand that not every battle is worth fighting, and who know that true power does not lie in how loud you can be, but in how deeply you can listen. In a world that constantly demands attention, those who remain silent are often perceived as indifferent or incapable. But silence is not about lacking a response. It is about choosing when and how to respond. The ability to stay silent in moments of chaos, in moments of anger, and in moments of uncertainty is a sign of self-control. It is easy to react, to retaliate, to let emotions dictate our words. But it takes immense strength to hold back, to observe, and to let the unnecessary pass without engagement. Silence allows you to process emotions before acting on them. When faced with criticism, many people feel the immediate urge to defend themselves, to prove their worth, to counter every argument. But those who are truly strong do not need to explain themselves to everyone. They know who they are, and they understand that the truth does not need validation. Strength lies in the ability to remain silent when words will not change the outcome. It lies in the ability to walk away from arguments that serve no purpose other than to drain your energy. When you embrace silence, you gain clarity. The world is noisy, filled with distractions, opinions, and unnecessary conflicts. When you choose silence, you create space for reflection. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You separate the important from the unimportant, the real from the illusion. Silence gives you the ability to focus on what truly matters rather than getting lost in the endless chatter of the world. People often believe that speaking up constantly makes them appear strong and influential. But in reality, the most powerful individuals are the ones who know when to speak and when to stay quiet. They do not waste words. They observe more than they react. They listen more than they argue. And when they do choose to speak, their words carry more weight because they are not diluted by unnecessary noise. Silence is not passive. It is not a sign of surrender. It is an active choice, a conscious decision to hold your power instead of scattering it in every direction. It is a tool that allows you to protect your peace, to conserve your energy, and to respond only when necessary. Strength is not in how much you say, but in how well you control what you say. Those who master silence do not let the world dictate their emotions. They remain steady, unshaken, and in control. The world today is louder than ever. Everywhere you go, there is a constant need for people to talk, express opinions, and make themselves heard. Social media has amplified this, making it easier for everyone to share their thoughts, whether or not they add value. But despite all this noise, true understanding remains rare. People speak, but they do not always listen. They hear words, but they do not always grasp their meaning. The more people talk, the less they truly connect. Everyone wants to be right, to be acknowledged, to be validated. In conversations, instead of listening, most people are simply waiting for their turn to speak. They are forming their responses before the other person has even finished talking. This creates a cycle where communication becomes about winning, not about understanding. In the middle of all this, those who remain silent, who choose to listen rather than constantly speak, stand apart. They understand something most people overlook. Words mean nothing if they do not lead to real understanding. Noise does not equal knowledge. Just because someone speaks confidently does not mean they are right. Just because they argue passionately does not mean they are wise. The world is full of loud voices that lack depth, full of people who repeat what they have heard without ever questioning or understanding it. Real wisdom comes not from how much one talks, but from how much one observes, reflects, and truly comprehends. Most conflicts arise not because people disagree, but because they refuse to understand each other. They assume, judge, and react without taking a moment to listen. They focus on proving a point rather than seeking the truth. This is why the world is filled with arguments but so little connection. It is why people speak but do not truly communicate. The world does not need more noise, it needs more understanding. Those who choose silence over unnecessary arguments, who listen instead of constantly trying to be heard, have an advantage. They see what others miss. They understand people's words, but more importantly, they understand the emotions behind them. They recognize the difference between someone speaking to share and someone speaking to dominate. They do not waste energy on meaningless debates or conversations that lead nowhere. In relationships, at work, in society, those who listen are the ones who truly connect. They do not impose their thoughts on others. They create space for real dialogue. They do not speak just to be noticed. They speak when their words add value. And because they do not contribute to the endless noise, their voices are heard when it truly matters. While the world rushes to be heard, the wise step back and listen. While people argue over differences, the thoughtful seek common ground. The world is full of noise, but those who truly understand do not get lost in it. They observe, they learn, and they choose their words carefully. Letting go of the need to control is one of the hardest lessons to learn. People have a natural tendency to want everything to go according to their plans, to have things happen on their own timeline, and to shape every outcome to fit their expectations. But life does not work that way. The more one tries to control every little detail, the more resistance they create. The more they force things, the more they slip away. True peace comes when one realizes that not everything is meant to be controlled, and not everything needs to happen immediately. There is a difference between taking action and forcing outcomes. Taking action means putting in effort, doing what is necessary, and allowing things to unfold naturally. Forcing outcomes, on the other hand, means constantly worrying, overthinking, and trying to manipulate situations that are beyond one's control. The more one forces things, the more anxiety they create for themselves. And in the end, they exhaust themselves in a battle that was never theirs to fight. Patience is a form of wisdom. It takes wisdom to understand that some things need time. Just as a seed does not turn into a tree overnight, certain things in life require patience to develop. People often struggle with this because they fear that if they do not rush, they will be left behind. But rushing does not guarantee success. It only guarantees stress. The right things will come at the right time, and trying to speed up the process will not make them arrive any sooner. Letting go of control does not mean giving up. It does not mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means understanding the balance between effort and trust. One can put in their best work, give their full energy, and still accept that some things are beyond their influence. The job offer, the relationship, the opportunity, if it is meant to be, it will come. And if it does not, then something better is waiting. Many people waste time worrying about the future. They stress over things that have not even happened yet. They try to predict outcomes, fearing the worst before it even arrives. But worrying does not change the future, it only ruins the present. The truth is, life is unpredictable. No matter how much one plans, there will always be unexpected turns. And that is not something to fear, that is something to embrace. Trusting the process means having faith that everything is falling into place even when it seems like it is falling apart. Sometimes things do not work out the way one wants because something better is being prepared. Sometimes delays are not rejections but redirections. The things that are truly meant for someone will never require excessive force. They will flow naturally, aligning with the right time and circumstances. Holding on too tightly only creates tension, but letting go allows life to move in its own perfect rhythm. Everything meant for you will find you naturally. This is a truth that many struggle to accept because people are conditioned to believe that they must chase, fight, and struggle to attain what they desire. Society teaches that success is only for those who push relentlessly, that love only comes to those who search tirelessly, and that happiness is something one must constantly strive for. But the reality is different. The things that are truly meant for a person will always come to them, not through force or desperation, but through alignment and patience. Many people live in fear of missing out, believing that if they do not chase opportunities, they will never receive them. This fear leads to overworking, overthinking, and forcing situations that are not meant to be. But what is meant to be will never pass by unnoticed. The right opportunities will arrive at the right time, regardless of how much one stresses over them. The wrong ones, no matter how hard one tries to hold on to them, will always slip away. This is because life has its own timing, and no amount of worry can change that. There's a difference between working towards something and forcing it. Effort is important, but there's a point where pushing too hard can actually create resistance. When someone forces relationships, they push people away. When they force success, they burn themselves out. When they force happiness, they end up feeling empty. The things that are truly meant for a person come with a sense of flow. They require effort, but they do not require struggle. They demand commitment, but they do not demand desperation. People often hold on to things that are not meant for them out of fear of being alone, fear of failure, fear of uncertainty. But by holding on to the wrong things, they block the right things from coming in. The job that drains energy, the relationship that no longer brings joy, the friendship that has grown distant. Sometimes letting go is the only way to create space for something better. And when one releases what no longer serves them, they make room for what is truly meant to be. Trusting that everything will come naturally does not mean doing nothing. It means having faith that the right things will come while continuing to do what is needed. It means putting in the work, staying open to opportunities, and believing that what belongs will never require force. Life has a way of aligning people with what is best for them when they stop resisting and start trusting. Sometimes, what is meant for a person does not come in the form they expect. It might not arrive at the time they planned, but it will always arrive when they are truly ready for it. And when it does, it will not require begging, chasing, or proving worth. It will simply feel right, and it will stay, not because it was forced, but because it was always meant to be. Nature has a way of teaching patience without saying a single word. The sun does not rush to rise, yet it never fails to appear. The seasons change in their own time, never hurrying, never delaying. A tree does not force itself to grow overnight, yet it stands tall because it trusts the process. In the same way, life unfolds at its own pace, and those who understand this do not rush through it. They learn to wait, to trust, and to embrace the timing of things rather than forcing them. People often become impatient because they believe that if something is not happening now, it may never happen at all. This impatience leads to frustration, doubt, and sometimes even giving up on things that were simply taking time to bloom. But just like a seed planted in the soil, growth is happening beneath the surface, even when it cannot be seen. A flower does not bloom the moment it is planted, but that does not mean it is not growing. Everything has its own season, and nothing beautiful comes from rushing the process. When someone forces something to happen before its time, it often leads to unnecessary struggle. Imagine trying to open a flower bud before it naturally blooms. It would only destroy the petals before they had a chance to unfold. The same is true in life. Rushing into a relationship before it is ready, forcing success before the skills have been developed, or trying to skip the journey in order to reach the destination, none of these things bring true fulfillment. They only create stress and disappointment. Patience is not just about waiting, it is about trusting. Trusting that what is meant to happen will happen. Trusting that delays are not denials but preparations. Trusting that just because something is taking longer than expected does not mean it is not on its way. The right things take time, and time is not an enemy. It is a teacher. It teaches resilience, growth, and the ability to appreciate things fully when they finally arrive. There is wisdom in nature's timing. Rain does not fall every day, but when it does, it nourishes the earth. The night may seem endless, but the sun always rises. Life follows a rhythm, and those who learn to move with it rather than against it find peace in the waiting. Instead of becoming restless, they use the time to prepare, to learn, to grow. They understand that if something is meant for them, it will not pass them by. And if it is not meant for them, no amount of chasing will make it stay. Everything that is truly valuable takes time to develop. Strength, wisdom, love, success, all of these things require patience. Rushing may provide quick results, but they are rarely lasting. When things happen naturally, they come with a sense of ease and stability. And when people embrace patience, they not only receive what is meant for them, but they also develop the peace to enjoy it when it arrives. In a world that constantly demands movement, action, and urgency, the idea of pausing feels unnatural. People are always chasing something: the next goal, the next opportunity, the next moment of happiness. But in this endless race, they forget the power of stillness. They forget that sometimes the most powerful thing they can do is to simply pause, breathe, and allow life to unfold on its own. Society glorifies busyness. It teaches that if someone is not always working, planning, or pushing forward, they are falling behind. But this belief creates exhaustion rather than success, stress rather than fulfillment. There is a difference between working towards something and forcing it. When people are too focused on controlling every detail, they miss the beauty of what is already happening around them. They become so caught up in chasing the future that they fail to live in the present. Stillness does not mean doing nothing. It means creating space to listen to oneself, to life, and to the natural rhythm of things. When someone is always rushing, they do not have time to truly understand what they need, what they feel, or what is truly meant for them. They confuse movement with progress, thinking that the faster they go, the more they will achieve. But real clarity comes in moments of stillness. It is in silence that the most profound answers reveal themselves. When people learn to pause, they start to see things differently. They recognize that not every situation needs an immediate reaction. Not every challenge requires a fight. Not every question needs an answer right away. There is wisdom in stepping back, in allowing time to bring clarity instead of forcing decisions out of fear or pressure. Many mistakes are made in haste simply because people do not take the time to think, to observe, and to trust that things will work out as they are meant to. Life is constantly unfolding, whether one interferes or not. The seasons change without force. The stars shine without effort. The river flows without resistance. There is a natural order to things, and those who understand this learn to move with the flow of life rather than against it. Instead of struggling to control what is uncontrollable, they embrace patience. They understand that what is meant for them will never require excessive force or desperation. It will come when the time is right. Many people live in a constant state of anxiety, worrying about things that have not even happened yet. They try to predict the future, to plan every step, to ensure that nothing goes wrong. But life does not work that way. The most beautiful moments often happen unexpectedly. The greatest lessons often come unplanned. The things that are truly meant to be will arrive not because they were chased, but because there was space for them to enter. When people stop rushing, they begin to notice the little things, the quiet moments of joy, the unexpected blessings, the beauty of simply being. They realize that life is not about how fast they can reach their goals, but about how present they can be while they are on the journey.